First up is my recent interview with Matthew Kelly, who, through his latest book, tells about how modern culture is robbing us of our happiness. And joining us now on Encounter is author and speaker Matthew Kelly, who recently wrote this book, The Biggest Lie in the History of Christianity. And thank you so much for being with us, Matthew.
You're very welcome. Great to be with you.
Maybe if we can get into it and talk about, you mentioned some of the, not just the biggest lie, but a number of negative influences or lies in society that can sort of sway Christians and affect their faith and their happiness. And maybe you could talk about some of those lies and how they can be detrimental to Christians.
Absolutely. You know, I think our culture is becoming increasingly anti-Christian. We now live in a culture where we have to tolerate everything except Christianity. And, you know, I think that's happened very quickly, and I think that's going to continue. I think you're going to see that impacting the way our society is organized. I think you're going to see it impacting laws in various countries. And that's going to be a tough time for Christians. And so I do think it is time that we get focused and get united and get organized. Some of the biggest lies, you know, obviously surround thought and science, reason and wisdom. And one that has perpetuated throughout history is the idea is that, you know, Christianity is for stupid people. You know, all the smart people are, you know, scientists or academics, intellectuals, and atheists, essentially is the message that our culture gives us. But history is full of geniuses who were Christian, who were committed to their Christian faith, and who were able to see the marriage between faith and reason. The church celebrates the marriage between faith and reason. The church isn't trying to break up the marriage between faith and reason. It's there, it's always been there, and it's a beautiful thing. I think the second one in our culture that is so hedonistic is around sexuality, you know. I think our culture, without explicitly saying it, you know, says that basically God and the church is anti-sex. And the reality is, you know, God's very much in favor of sex and very much in favor of procreation and very much in favor of you having a great sex life. And it's just a matter of understanding the context of that. And so that's another one of the massive lies, I think, that is perpetuated in our culture. Yeah.
How can this book like this steer people of faith in the right direction? I know you mentioned too about people being disillusioned. They have a disillusioned view of life, and maybe this book can help them fill them with hope a little bit.
Yeah, you know, the big thing for me is never to write anything that overwhelms people. Yeah. You know, I think when we get overwhelmed, we've lost the Holy Spirit. You know, when we're walking with the Spirit, we're never overwhelmed. And but I do think a lot of people are overwhelmed in their faith right now. And I think the people who have an urge to get more involved don't know where to start. And so really it's about, okay, where do I start? Or where do I start again? And the idea of these holy moments, and that you can create one holy moment, and you can do it today, and that's a great place to start. And you can create 2 holy moments tomorrow and 5 next Thursday. And so just the idea of giving people hope and giving people a starting point and giving people a really practical way to focus, you know, their faith every day in their actions.
And I mean, continuing on this too, what are some particular ways too that people, Christians, Catholics, can maybe take a different view, change the lies of the world, put truth back in the world a little bit?
I think in most conversations, God's perspective is absent, you know, and so when we think about evangelizing and we think about the new evangelization, it isn't necessarily to go and be missionaries in Asia or Africa, but it is to sit around at work and sit around in our social settings and to introduce God's perspective to the conversation. And that doesn't mean we have to preach. Sometimes it just means we have to ask the question, you know. I wonder what God would think about that. Yeah. That's all you got to say. And it shifts the focus of the conversation. And so I think just to think about how can we bring God's perspective into every conversation, doesn't mean we need to be preachy, but how do we bring God's perspective into conversations?
And you talk too about community too, and Christians helping other Christians in their work of spreading truth throughout the world.
Yeah, there's no question. I think community is going to be so important. It always has been an important part of Christianity since the very beginning. The first Christian communities were phenomenally attractive to people and really at the core of what allowed Christianity to spread massively and rapidly. In a modern culture, people are lonely. You know, they've got thousands of friends on social media and no real friends. Families are breaking down, breaking up, and people are lonely. People are searching for community. One of our core natural needs is to feel like we belong. And, you know, the church, we have an opportunity to provide that powerful experience of community. And I think that's very, very important to the future of the church in the next 20, 50, 100 years.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Matthew, for being with us. And we're not going to let you go just yet. Matthew has agreed to stick around for a little longer to talk with us about a book that he has put together called Why I Love Being Catholic.